a 41-year-old male KCB board engineer who was involved in the flood restoration works. History of present illness. Day 1, myalgia, arthralgia. Day 2, ecchymotic patch over the trunk. Day 3, fever and rash over trunk. Day 4, brought here after 4 days of onset of fever and rash. Medication taken before day 4 admission. Acyclovir, doxycycline 200 mg taken, mefenamic acid.
Okay, so what are the possibilities that comes to your mind? Day 1, what do you think the patient is having?
Day 1, he was having arthralgia and myalgia.
I am asking you the inference, not repetition of the symptoms.
It could be due to infections, viral and
viral infections usually produce myalgia, arthralgia. Second possibility is leptospiral-like illnesses. Day 2, he has got ecchymotic patches over the trunk. The possibilities come here are
viral hemorrhagic fever.
Okay. Leptospiral can also have ecchymotic patches. Yes. And day 3, he has got fever and rash. And he has taken medication.
Yes, sir.
Acyclovir is given for which indication?
Viral infections like varicella.
Okay. Doxycycline is given for which infection?
Leptospira prophylaxis.
And what about mefenamic acid?
It's an NSAID, so for pain relieving, analgesic.
NSAID should not be given for dengue fever. It has got a lot of side effects. Those who usually die are the patients who has taken intake of mefenamic acid. On examination, what did you find?
BMI is 32.
Inference?
He is obese.
Yes.
Pulse rate is 102 per minute.
Yes.
There's tachycardia.
Yes.
Blood pressure is 110/70 millimeters of mercury, which is normal.
Okay. He has got multiple vesicles at various stages of healing. What do you make out of that?
Maybe a varicella infection.
And he had 2 blood-filled vesicles.
Some drug reactions.
Drug reactions. Okay. Fine. This is the appearance of this patient. He had, on the trunk, he had vesicles at various stages of healing. He had 2 blood-filled vesicles, and at abdominal wall you can see an ecchymotic patch. Right?
Yes, sir.
What are the possibilities that comes to your mind?
Dengue fever.
Dengue fever, possibility number 1.
Leptospirosis. Drug reactions at.
Okay. Leptospira, how often you get fever, myalgia and headache? Around 100%. What's the important physical finding in leptospira? Which is commonly missed or not looked for?
Conjunctival congestion.
That's a very good answer. Congenital congestion. How often you get respiratory symptoms and signs? 1/3. And GIT complaint may be non-specific, 50%. All other complaints are non-specific. So possibilities will consider varicella zoster. You didn't tell that diagnosis here. No? Why didn't you think varicella here? Or the 0.2 varicella? Can fever occur in varicella?
Yes, sir.
Myalgia?
No, sir.
Yes, you can have, just like viral fever, you can have headache. Minimal amount of myalgia is possible. Anything else? 0.2.
Ecchymotic patches.
Yes, complicated cases, you may get ecchymotic patches. Okay. Why didn't you consider secondary bacterial infection in this case? Chickenpox with secondary infection is a possibility. Fever with thrombocytopenia of any origin can have this picture, no?
Yes.
Viral hemorrhagic fevers, including dengue fever. Leptospira, you said as a possibility. Okay. Leptospira is a possibility. Okay. That's what something you wanted to say. So, dengue hemorrhage fever is a possibility. What are the common complications of varicella?
Secondary bacterial infection,
Yes.
varicella pneumonia.
Does this patient have varicella pneumonia?
No, sir.
No. What are the importance of varicella pneumonia? Just like viral pneumonia, any other peculiarity? Commonly seen in elderly people, and varicella pneumonia is a bad prognostic sign, and patients do die. And when they heal, unlike other pneumonias, it leaves behind calcified areas. Okay. Any other complication?
Encephalitis.
Which part of the brain is specifically affected in varicella? Cerebellum. Cerebellum. You can have headache, vomiting, altered sensorium, seizure. Okay. Do you consider sepsis in this patient? He had tachycardia. Is that secondary infection possible?
Yes, sir, there could be.
There could be. What about hemorrhagic complications?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you can get bleeding into the vesicles. You can have thrombocytopenia. You can have involvement of the liver also. What other complication can occur?
Demyelination.
How do you distinguish between demyelination and encephalitis? Encephalitis occur in the acute stage of varicella. Demyelination occur just like any other disease, post-infective demyelination, 2 to 3 weeks. That's how we distinguish between the two. In both situations, you can have focal deficit. Who are the people likely to get complication?
Immunocompromised.
Immunocompromised people, yes.
Elderly.
Elderly. Yes, so who have undergone transplantation, immunocompromised elderly, already mentioned. Retrovirus positive patients, steroids taking patients, patients who are having malignancies and who are on chemotherapy, susceptible group, they get complications. So when young children get varicella, you don't expect any complication, but otherwise you expect some complication in them. So this patient has got, he's not very old, he's only 41, he is going for some complication of chickenpox. Can you put it like that?
Yes, sir.
What are the possibilities? Which factor would have led on to that? Okay. What about leptospirosis? What are the investigations you plan in leptospirosis?
Blood culture.
Leptospira is not cultured in the blood. Rather, you go for antibodies. Antibody was negative. What is the count in leptospira? Expect what count? It's a misnomer or a wrong idea among the medical fraternity that it produces leukocytosis. Commonly, the count will be less than 10,000. It can rarely range between 3,000 to 26,000, and there may be some amount of leftward shift. The point it produces leukocytosis is rare, but it is very much stressed in medical schools because when you have jaundice patient in front of you, the differentiation between viral hepatitis and leptospira, if there is leukocytosis, that favors leptospiral infection. So what is investigations you plan in this patient in a provisional diagnosis?
Dark microscopy.
For?
Demonstration of the leptospira.
That is not commonly done. You go for antibodies only. Yes?
Serological test.
No, that's antibody. That's negative in this patient. Any other investigation you want?
Urine culture.
Urine culture, you don't get leptospira. Don't get. Leptospira is a clinical diagnosis supported with there's a criteria called as Fain's criteria. Fain's criteria is used to diagnose leptospira. If I go through that, the criteria, that's how it is diagnosed. Okay.
Yes.
So, investigations. This patient underwent investigations. These are the investigations done. At the time of arrival, investigation is done. Important investigation these patients are. It is even read.
Platelet 15,000.
So does it go with your any of your diagnosis? Okay, don't worry. Total white cell count is 2.7 and polymorphs only 32.
32.
So what are the situations where you can have this pattern? Thrombocytopenia, leukopenia with the lymphocyte dominant neutrophils are less. Leukopenia, thrombocytopenia can occur in case of dengue fever. Both can occur in case of leptospira, though rare. B12 deficiency can produce both. Myelodysplastic syndrome can have both. Right?
Yes.
Then going to the other thing, the liver function test, some red things are there.
SGOT 69 and SGPT 124.
So what do you make out of that? His serum albumin is 3.8, indicate thereby he doesn't have a chronic liver disease. In obese patient with a fatty liver, you expect some changes there also. Otherwise, bilirubin is just above normal. Other parameters, INR particularly, is found to be normal. Kidney is normal, urea creatinine is normal, unlike you expect in case of leptospira where you may have some elevation of creatinine. GRBS, last investigation, 210, what do you make out of that?
It is elevated.
Means what?
High blood sugar.
Means what?
Diabetic.
So he's a diabetic. So first time he is detected to be diabetic, he is obese, and short duration of illness he has come. Let's go to the findings. On examination, these are the findings. Column number 1.
Pulse rate 145 per minute. He is having tachycardia. Blood pressure 60 by 40 millimeters of mercury.
So you think
Hypotension.
hypotension, she's in shock.
Respiratory rate 40 per minute. He is having tachypnea.
Okay.
SpO2 is 100% in 10 liter of oxygen.
Okay. Right hand side ABG is given.
Blood investigation pH 7.323.
Normal is 7.35 to 7.45. So he's having acidosis. PCO2,
22.4.
so he's not having respiratory acidosis. And bicarb is
14.
having metabolic acidosis. What may be the cause for the metabolic acidosis? In this background, the shock patient, acidosis may be because of lactic acidosis, anaerobic metabolism. In a diabetic patient, possibility of ketoacidosis should not be forgotten. And look at the last investigation.
Blood culture shows Staphylococcus aureus.
So, can you connect it again?
Secondary infections.
Infection producing sepsis,
Sepsis.
producing shock, and sepsis is well known to produce multi-organ involvement. That can also be explained.
Yes.
This is the fear of this patient. You already, okay, you see, have a look at it closely. Look at the number of platelets you are here seeing here. No platelet is seen. And what about the RBCs? You are not seeing any malarial parasite. And what are you seeing in the WBCs? Can you identify these cells? No. Okay, smear investigation. Interpretation comes like this. So, it's a 30%. That's the lymphocyte dominant one, only one neutrophil, 40% are lymphocytes, and rest are blast cells. So how do you distinguish between myeloblast and lymphoblast?
By the
Pardon? Looking at the cytoplasm. Looking at cytoplasm, which one will have more cytoplasm? Myeloblast will have more cytoplasm. Lymphoblast, nucleus will fill the cell. And granules is seen in which condition? Myeloblast. No granules in case of lymphoblast. Number of nucleoli, how many in lymphoblast? 1 or 2. Myeloblast will be 4, 5, like that. And then OR rods can be seen. Where is OR rod seen? Cytoplasm or the nucleus? OR rods are seen.
cytoplasm.
What color is it? They are very red. When you do hematoxylin eosin stain, you can see clearly this color, and it will be needle-shaped type of material, long, elongated one, cytoplasm. This is a very important clue on the peripheral smear for a myeloid series cells. Okay. So what are the differential diagnoses now we have to offer? AML is the diagnosis. What are the points by which you can diagnose AML?
By peripheral smear.
And bone marrow, compulsory you do. And what should be criteria?
Cytopenia or pancytopenia.
You had cytopenia in this patient. Yet blast cells more than 20%. And you do bone marrow, if more than 20% blast cells, it is helpful. Then clue will be many of them be having secondary gout or tumor lysis syndrome. What are symptoms and signs of AML? Symptoms and signs of AML are?
Fever.
What happens is bone marrow is filled with the abnormal cells. So it doesn't produce platelets, RBC and normal WBC. Platelet deficiency produces bleed. WBC will be abnormal. It doesn't do the normal function, so they become susceptible for infections. And RBCs are also in trouble, so it produces anemia. Rarely though, it produces involvement of the brain. Which type of AML produces brain involvement, like meningitis or focal deficit? Usually monocytic type. And sometimes you can see skin manifestation like stagnation of cells in the blood vessel periphery, bluish discoloration of the toes and fingers. What about organomegaly?
Hepatosplenomegaly may be present.
Usually, organomegaly is not a sign of acute leukemias, unlike chronic leukemias. So the points to differentiate acute leukemia one hand, chronic leukemia other hand is, one is the duration. 2, presence of organomegaly is in favor of chronic or acute cases. It may be just palpable if at all. If you find acute leukemia with a huge organomegaly, that means it's a chronic leukemia with a blast crisis. Acute leukemias, patient will be very, very sick. Chronic leukemia, vague, non-specific complaints. Acute leukemia characterized by RBC, WBC and platelet problems. Such things don't happen with chronic leukemia, where organomegaly produces discomfort of the abdomen, fatigability, non-specific symptoms. What about arthritis? Do you get arthritis in these patients?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Why do you get arthritis in leukemia? Secondary hyperuricemia or gout. And you get bone tenderness in these patients. How do you elicit bone tenderness? Which bone is selected for looking for tenderness?
Shin of tibia.
You have to percuss, direct percussion over the sternum. Okay, and you have features of tumor lysis syndrome. Examination of mouth, what are the things you are likely to see? The clue is given here. In the oropharynx, you may find fungus infection, candida infection. You can have herpes infection. You can have gingival hyperplasia, which is a monocytic dominant type of leukemia. And skin and mucous membrane may show bleed. And what are the changes you expect in the fundus? Fundus may show evidence of bleeding. This bleeding will be peculiar in the sense that it will flame-shaped bleed, but the center of the bleed will be white in color. Center clearance will be there. And when the count is very much high, the cells get deposited in the skin. That's called as cutis, acute leukemia cutis. And sometimes you get what is called myeloid sarcoma. Myeloid sarcoma is previously called as chloroma, is bluish colored solid masses seen because of deposit of the tissue. And what is the classification of AML? Previously, AML was classified as FAB. What's FAB? What's FAB classification? French, American, British classification, whereby it was classified into M0 to M7. Currently, that is not used. Current classification is WHO classification. That's the only one used for treatment of AML patients. It is previous classification FAB was based upon simple microscopic examination of peripheral smear, but WHO classification makes use of tumor markers, cytochemistry, immunohistochemistry, and genetic markers. Accordingly, the WHO says that first type will be AML with recurrent genetic abnormalities, and type 2 will be AML with myelodysplastic multilineage dysplasia, and 3 will be therapy related myeloid neoplasia, and last will be unclassified or otherwise not specified. These are 4 groups coming under the category of WHO classification. In our hospital, whenever we have a patient with leukemia, we do peripheral smear bone marrow, then invariably this patient will be taken up for flow cytometry, and if necessary for further studies, samples will be sent outside the hospital. And accordingly, they will be classified in one of these categories. Why do you categorize? Is because categorization tells you the prognosis. Some will have good prognosis, some will have bad prognosis. 2, who all will respond to treatment. 3, which are the drugs given for which all types of mutations and genetic markers. So all these things are decided, actually the treatment as such is decided based upon to which group they come into. There may be situation where you may be not able to put into a specific group, there may be overlap as well. What are the complications of acute myeloid leukemia? Can tell few complications. We already come through few complications. We already mentioned the symptoms and signs. We said some complication, no?
Leukemia cutis.
Leukemia cutis. Good. We said tumor lysis syndrome. Excellent. That's an emergency relation to leukemia. So you can have severe anemia warranting transfusion. They can bleed anywhere, particularly to the brain. That's dangerous. And these people are susceptible for infection because the WBCs are not normal. The specific type of leukemia, promyelocytic variety, can go for DIC. Gout you already mentioned. And there are situations where you have hyperleukocytosis, where count is more than 1 lakh, which can occlude your blood vessels here and there and create problems. Then of course, tumor lysis syndrome. It's a possibility. So what are the common symptoms of AML? Duration presentation will be very brief. Acute onset fever because absence of WBCs, anemia because of absence of RBC, bleeding because of platelet problems, and because of sepsis, as you have seen in this patient, he has gone for sepsis, septic shock. So these are the common presentations of this. But why do you get leukemia? What's the etiology behind it?
Gene mutation.
Gene mutation is correct. Why do people get gene mutation?
Due to exposure to
Yes.
exposure to radiations and translocation.
Okay. Some people are having inherited genetic abnormalities. Some people may be already having what is called as myelodysplastic syndrome, which ultimately becomes acute myeloid leukemia. Paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria and aplastic anemia to hematological problems, which can also convert into AML. Chromosomal abnormalities can also produce problems, like Down syndrome, classical example. Okay, now what are the environmental factors that can produce leukemia? If you are
Radiation.
Radiation is one. I have seen one X-ray technician at the age of 60 suffering with AML. So radiation is one. People who are exposed to this nuclear explosion, they get leukemias. Chemical benzene, too much tobacco, chemotherapy, and certain retroviruses can produce problem. What is the differential diagnosis of AML? Now, based upon what you already seen, you can say something.
MDS.
Any differential diagnosis of anemia in a sick patient, very short duration. Any patient coming with bleeding or pancytopenia, and when you get dry bone marrow tap, you are not able to get it, you think it's possible. And when you have Felty syndrome like situation, rheumatoid arthritis, splenomegaly, you have different lowering of the count, you may suspect this condition. Hemophagocytic state can be another situation which comes as a differential diagnosis. Now, what are the investigations you plan? You already said you do
Peripheral smear, bone marrow.
That's compulsory, yes. Yes, you want to see morphology, you want to cytochemistry, immunophenotyping, and karyotyping or FISH. These are the things we have to do in any case of AML. Then only you'll be able to tell the type of leukemia. What's the prognosis of this patient?
Poor prognosis.
You can always put the old people, old means above 60, are usually having poor prognosis. There is a technique by which you can do the scoring system, Karnofsky score, more than 60. You need not learn the basic things about Karnofsky score, just know there's a term like that. More than 60 is unfavorable diagnosis, and certain phenotypes also have got poor prognosis. Those who have already taken treatment for some other conditions, cyclophosphamide, melphalan, and so on, and they get poor prognosis. So also prior MDS get poor prognosis. There are different complex karyotypic abnormalities and different mutations which all make it unfavorable. Rest of them can be called as favorable, and there may be a group in between, indeterminate also. And what's the natural history of this disease? If you treat, what will happen?
If not treated, it's fatal.
It is fatal. If it is fatal, it is treated. If you treat, what will happen? You have 100 patients with AML, what will you achieve by doing proper treatment? You can achieve remission in 60% minimum, up to 80%. Those who do not respond treatment are all belonging to the group called unfavorable. There are difficult mutations and so on. Okay. And even if everything is favorable, if you are not fit for a chemotherapy, proper treatment, again, prognosis will be bad. Okay. How do you manage this patient?
Chemotherapy.
Chemotherapy. Is there any leukemia where no chemotherapy is given, but you can treat acute myeloid leukemia? Name a acute myeloid leukemia where chemotherapy is not given. Yes, promyelocytic leukemia, chemotherapy is not given, some of the drugs are given. The management depends upon age of the patient. Extremes of ages is difficult to treat, particularly old people, so difficult to treat. And the patient says, I don't want chemotherapy, personal value, his own preferences. He say, I do not have injections, only tablets. Then things are different. You have to respect patient's values also. So what patient says, I don't want treatment, you go ahead accordingly. And also depends upon the prognostic features. If the patient is already demented, there's no fun in treating this patient. He has got very bad CKD, chronic kidney disease, refractory heart failure, then it will be very difficult to treat those type of patients. And how do you assess the response? Okay, come to the treatment. How do you treat these patients? Drugs used are
Cytosine arabinoside.
cytosine arabinoside,
Doxorubicin.
This is called 7+3 regime. 7 days you give cytosine arabinoside, overlapping 3 days you give doxorubicin. Cycles are given. And there are different other specific mutations for which you give specific treatment. And personalized treatment is given for majority of the patients, depending upon the investigation results. You decide which variety is, and accordingly the treatment is variable. So all these medications will have side effects, namely they suppress bone marrow, so further infection, bleed, and when you give the drugs, you get what's called lysis of the tissue. So you get gout and tumor lysis syndrome. Okay, and accordingly you will get different types of electrolyte disturbances, metabolic problems, calcium, phosphate, everything may alter. So whole thing changes accordingly. How do you assess the response of these patients? How to categorize them?
Those who respond to chemotherapy.
Okay, you are right.
Those who respond to chemotherapy and those who does not respond.
Incomplete remission, complete remission, partial remission, and refractory. When you say complete remission, your peripheral smear must be normal, and then bone marrow also must be normal to say complete remission. So target is always complete remission. Once you induce remission, what do you do next? Induction followed by consolidation, and if necessary you go for transplantation. Particularly for people who are below 60 years, transplantation is option. As age advances, transplantation is not suggested. Those who have intermediate risk, again you may go for transplantation. Unfavorable prognostic markers, you may try transplantation. And the best transplantation method is allogenic marrow rather than homologous. Okay, so the decision regarding consolidation and transplantation all depends upon other factors like genetic factors, comorbid conditions, chromosomal factors, and many other factors decide what is the next step for this patient. Now, when we said one type of leukemia, there is no chemotherapy, but we go for other drugs. Which are leukemia? Yes. Promyelocytic leukemia. When we discuss about acute myeloid leukemia, the only thing I have to stress and students must remember is this entity is an emergency. If you don't pick up the case, patient will die. Die of which complication?
Sepsis.
DIC. DIC is the well-known complication of this type of leukemia. So the moment you find blast cells, myeloblast in the peripheral blood, even if they are very few. Read the last sentence. Start treatment
Before
even
confirmation.
before you wait for confirmation, because that's the only way to save the patient. If you do a peripheral smear, send to pathologist, do bone marrow, send to them, then it will take time. By that time, patient would have gone to DIC and die. That should not happen. And what's the treatment then? Arsenic and retinoic acid are the treatment of choice. Okay, trans-retinoic acid and arsenic are the treatment of choice. So it's an emergency, and this drug, retinoic acid, can produce a problem, namely differentiation syndrome. What are the features of differentiation syndrome? You may not know. It's a very fatal complication of retinoic acid. Okay, so what is this drug, retinoic acid? Where does it come from? It's a derivative of which vitamin? Which vitamin?
Vitamin A.
Yes, the vitamin A derivative. Yes, it can produce very fatal complication. Okay, there are many features for this complication. If you pick up 3 of them, then you have to stamp this as differentiated syndrome, and then treatment is given as steroids. The correct mechanism of differentiated syndrome is not known, but whenever you start treatment with arsenic and retinoic acid, you know this is expected, you wait for it, and then you go ahead with the steroid treatment. Okay, any doubts for students at this time? So summary of this case is, this patient presented with, actually the diagnosis was acute myeloid leukemia. He was having chicken pox, secondary infection, and he was going for complication of chicken pox and complications of AML. Okay, so it's a very complicated case, but this is the way AML presents to you. Very short history, very few hours or days duration, and quick diagnosis, quick treatment is warranted, otherwise the patient will die. This was the case of promyelocytic leukemia. He required immediate attention and treatment. If you delay it, you will be getting into trouble. Any more questions? So it's a time for questions for postgraduate students. What are the indications for leukophoresis? What is leukophoresis? What is meant by hyperleukocytosis?
Leukocytes count.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
How are you? Say.
Leukophoresis is a laboratory procedure to reduce the WBC count. They are separated from blood sample.
Okay.
To reduce the hyperleukocytosis.
What are the clinical features of hyperleukocytosis?
Hyperviscosity symptoms will be there.
What are they? Very good.
Like headache.
Yes.
Papilledema.
Confusion. And what are the classical fundal findings?
There will be papilledema. And thrombosis can be seen.
What is the importance of recognizing this hyperleukocytosis? If you don't recognize, what will happen? They will die within 48 hours time. Mortality is 50%. Mortality is 50%.
Chance of.
Yes. When you find somebody with meningeal irritation, in a case of leukemia, what are the possibilities that comes to your mind?
CNS leukemia.
Okay, any other?
Involvement.
Any other?
And
can
also,
you have subarachnoid hemorrhage in these patients?
Yes, sir. More chance of bleeding.
Which type of leukemia produces classically the involvement of the brain?
Usually, lymphoblastic leukemia.
No, the AML. monocytic type of morphology cells usually produces infiltration in the brain, also bleeding. Okay. Now, what are the markers for myeloid series cells in the flow cytometry or immunohistochemistry? Myeloid series cells, what are the markers?
RUNX1 mutation.
CD13 and CD33.
Immunization.
And if it is a lymphoid series, CD19 and CD10. Okay. Now, can you tell something about a drug called midostaurin? Midostaurin.
Sorry, sir.
Okay, if it is a type of FLT3 kinase inhibitor, use the
It's protein.
treatment of induction, consolidation, maintenance therapy in patients, selected group of patients who are having FLT3 mutations. It prolongs the survival of this patient. Okay, tell me something about core binding factor leukemia. Core binding factor leukemia. Translocation between 8 and 21. So it is a type of leukemia where you find they got a very favorable outlook. Okay, they produce usually classically a type of chimeric protein and are seen 15% of AML. This type of AML with this translocation 821, the good prognosis is called as core binding factor leukemia. Okay.
Okay,
Now,
sir.
can you tell me the chromosomes related to leukemia following MDS?
Mm,
5 and 7. And tell me chromosome related to etoposide related. Long arm of chromosome number 11. Okay. One more slide. One more slide. Okay. So I think we had a good session. And now tell